Welcome to the RV Game Changer Show with Uncle Bernie. If you're interested in RVs as a consumer, service provider, or as a manufacturer of RVs, this show is for you. Here we talk to RV experts, RV manufacturers, lifestyle influencers, service providers, charitable organizations, and component providers with a sole purpose to make RVing more fun and exciting and easier for you and your family. Please subscribe to RV Game Changer with Uncle Bernie on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Of course, find us by searching at RV Game Changer on YouTube. Let's see what we can do to make your life better this week on RV Game Changer. Welcome back to RV Game Changer, everyone. Today, we have a truly inspiring guest joining us. He's someone who has spent nearly 2 decades honing his craft as a marketing strategist, helping small businesses grow and thrive. He's an innovator, a leader, and someone deeply passionate about connecting people, ideas, and communities. For the past 6 years, he's been part of an incredible team at Harvest Host, and more recently, he's embraced the role of Chief Retirement Officer for both Harvest Host and 𝒂𝒂𝒊𝒍𝒂𝒃𝒍𝒆 RV Club. Please join me in welcoming Bill Zhang to the show. Hey, Bill, thanks for joining me on RV Game Changer today.
Hey, Bernie. Great to be here.
Yeah, this is exciting. It's really a pleasure to have you here. Could you start by sharing a little bit about your journey in marketing and how it's led you to where you are today?
Yeah, definitely. I graduated from UVA in 2006 and started, looking for a job. Got a government contracting job in a cubicle and really just lasted barely 11 months. I need to do something a little more creative, a little more, out there. So I actually
be able to see a window once in a while.
Well, if we stood up, we could see a window.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually came back to my dad's family business and started doing marketing, digital marketing, Google Ads. Meta was just starting their advertising programs back in the day. And then, after working there for a couple of years and honing my kind of self-taught marketing skills, I went over to a small startup in Reston, Virginia called VideoBlocks. And that's where I met Joel Holland. He was a tech entrepreneur at that time. There were only about 15 of us in the building, and we built that up to 100 some folks. But then during that time, he actually, we can talk about this a little bit later, but he actually got a little bit of tech burnout. He was working day and night and trying to get investors and trying to do all that stuff and grow a community of digital marketing asset and graphics and stock footage kind of community. And he actually bought an RV to get away from it all. And that's kind of the genesis and thought of the Chief Retirement Officer here. And that's when he found Harvest Host. It was a small, tiny little family business, and they had actually gotten their inspiration from Franz Passion. He ended up loving it so much, he bought the company and started building it up like his previous startups. And that's when he asked me to join. I had been at another job for a couple of years, still doing, digital marketing and marketing strategy. And then he asked me to join, and we spent some time just a handful of us trying to see, is there there, right? Is Harvest Host attractive enough of a product to market and to grow into a community? And we went from, 10, 20, 30,000 members. And then in 2020, of course, the pandemic hit, and we really exploded at that time because there was many of the campgrounds were closed, and a lot of the place hosts couldn't find any marketing or couldn't find any customers because in-store dining was banned. So the pandemic really helped us, but we continued growing, we continued building. And that's kind of where my role here the current role came out of, is after getting to about 300,000 members, we purchased Boondockers Welcome, we purchased Thrift Stops, and most recently we purchased 𝒂𝒂𝒊𝒍𝒂𝒃𝒍𝒆, and I helped Joel kind of integrate all those companies together. We hired a big team. We're almost at 90 people now for our Harvest Host team, and it was a lot of work. It was a lot of things, and I almost echo exactly what Joel felt. Is there was just a lot of it's a lot of work, and nothing against it. It's just hard work building a big community and building
Absolutely.
a thriving business. So he and I discussed last fall and said, look, I would say I need more time with the family, and I want to do it in a way that can still help the company and respect kind of the ethos of it, but also give me more time, not just with the family, but just, for myself, and
just to decompress a little bit, right?
Right. And so he actually came up with this idea. We had originally done the chief retirement officer role as a PR play. He had purchased a new Brinkley, and he was upgrading because he had a second child, and they couldn't fit in the Grand Design anymore. So we actually had a campaign to see if we could hire somebody to be chief retirement officer. And I think the issue turned into, there's legal issues, taxes, transfer. The unit was about 4 years old, and we didn't want to hand somebody something that was a little bit older. Also, on top of that, there's just a problem with it's a fifth wheel. It's very difficult to find someone who has a truck that can,
light truck. Yeah, you need a 1 ton in a lot of cases. Yeah.
Right. And we wanted to be very safe and careful not to have the issues. And then, and it was all wrapped in Harvest Host gear. So it just became a lot more complicated than we thought. We thought we were going to raffle off this thing, have a big celebration for whomever came on. And it turned a lot more difficult than we thought. So I actually purchased my own rig. It's a little toy hauler. And we now use the Harvest Host rig kind of as a event space. So this is actually me and in Elkhart at the Forest River Plant 95 that actually built my toy hauler. It's not the exact unit, but it's very similar to this. And I got to actually go see how they did it. So it was amazing. And one of the reasons we got the toy hauler, the smallest toy hauler probably in production, for Forest River at least, was because the ramp in the back allows us to take my younger daughter, who's 9 years old and is in a wheelchair. So that's been super helpful if you've just kind of extended it and pulled it around. And so that's one of the other reasons that, I don't want to call it burnout. I call it reprioritizing family. And trying to make sure that I have enough time during the week and during the days to actually, spend time with them. So this role came about. We had originally thought it would be more of a PR campaign, but it came about to be actually a lifestyle change for me. And I'm hoping that as more people hear about it, it's possible. It's possible to choose between, having a successful career and having being, a successful family, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, and still have a quality of life, right?
Right. Right.
And I must admit, it's probably a little bit challenging, working with a visionary like Joel, because he is a visionary. He sees past things, he sees the future, he sees it, 100 miles down the road for sure. But also, it's great that he's open and he understands that people are human and we need to connect. And the nature of the business that you're in obviously is all about that, right? It's all about community and all about getting out there and supporting the local farms, museums, wineries, distilleries, and whatever it may be that they go to visit during the Harvest Host. Now, if you don't mind, let's talk a little bit more about that role of Chief Retirement Officer, what that entails and what that means to you.
Yeah, for me, it means really just reconnecting with the different aspects of the business that I have not been able to. And, it's a really embarrassing to admit it, but I had actually never used the product in the true sense. Been selling it for 6 years. I've been pretending to be an RVer. I've absorbed all the knowledge from all the Facebook groups and all the podcasts, such as yours and everything. And but I think this is a time when, I've been to probably over 20 hosts, visiting, mostly driving and maybe sometimes even flying out to different areas to visit hosts and talk to them and interview them and things like that. But I'd never actually, experienced like gray tank anxiety where you're you don't know how much more you can put in.
How much room do I have? Oh my God.
Yeah. And same thing with power, right? Like not having power. Maybe what if it gets too hot? What if it gets too cold? I had never experienced that. And I think you're not really a real RVer until you know. Range anxiety is another big thing. How much gas can I go? Better top off now. And that's something that I feel like these are all inside jokes that you just don't get until you've actually done it. And last Friday, we actually went to pick up a little poop trolley because we have gray tank anxiety now.
Yeah. When you become an RVer, you actually become a problem solver, right? You're actually trying to anticipate what could happen, and then also respond properly when things do happen, because they do happen, and you have to be kind of like on top of things a little bit. And it's much better to be proactive than reactive when it comes time for either maintenance or like making sure you have enough room in your gray tank while someone's taking a shower and things of that nature, for sure.
Yeah. And so I think for me, that's one part of the role that I really wanted to embrace, is be able to, I've been RVing, we've been boondocking, went to Balloon Fiesta a couple of years ago. I've been out in different areas, but those are more, I want to say performative, right? We were just kind of in there for the event. This is actually driving and learning how to tow and back up, and my brain stops working when I'm backing up the trailer. I just don't understand which direction it's supposed to go. So it's really been fun learning all of these things and getting an understanding. Actually, the biggest thing is the aha moments now as Chief Retirement Officer. I can go back and say, that's why everybody wants pictures of the driveway into the host location, because you want to see how low the branches are. You want to see if there's any divots. A 42.
Where am I going to pull over? Yeah,
right.
Where are we going? Is it going to be level or something like that?
Right. Yeah, and even a little dip for us in a car means nothing, but when you're in a 42-foot fifth wheel, like that dip could mean you bottom out and you're stuck. And those are things that I've, our toy hauler is just 23 feet, so we fit everywhere. But but just seeing it and living it is very different. So I think that was number one. Joel, again, is a visionary, is super high, fast paced. Most of the time we are, I feel sometimes it's like being strapped to a rocket. He's going 1,000 miles an hour. We're just hanging on for dear life. But that's kind of our roles. But he also has the compassion to look back and say, wow, Bill, like you've worked so hard and we've done so many things together. Now go enjoy, right? And do it in a way that still helps the company. And I think in this role, that's the first thing is, hey, go experience the product, but also please record your adventures, do all the, understand it, upload all the images, go through all the headaches of not having enough Wi-Fi and dead zones. And now your GPS doesn't work and you have no idea, you're just guessing where you're going. All of those things. And then bring that feedback back to the team. And so I still have direct connections and I'm still involved in all the meetings and all the different things at a strategic level to go and say, hey, here's what I'm learning. Here's what I'm seeing. Here's what I'm hearing from the host. I'm also talking to all the hosts and making sure that they are taken care of. So that's kind of number one and number two. And then the final thing is just actually embracing the title retirement. Right.
You're a young guy, right?
Yeah, that's true. I'm only 41.
Okay. That's young.
it's pretty young for the RV industry. But I think one thing I just haven't had time to do is, we have 3 kids. We have a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And just not having enough time for each one. They're in different phases of life. So we're talking about, SOL testing and different types of academics and volleyball practice for my 12-year-old daughter. My 9-year-old is special needs. She has, physical therapy and all these seizure medications and all this stuff that needs time for PT and gait training. We have to retrofit the whole house. We've got stair lifts going up and down our entire house to help her get around. And just, but she's oftentimes stuck at home because we just don't have the accessibility to take her out to a lot of places. So that's another area that I'm focusing on. And then the 4-year-old is just a ball of energy and we need to get him out of the house. He's just a wrecking ball. So So all of this stuff actually plays really well with having an RV, and focusing more again on the, retirement, the retirement.
And you're right. They're all at different phases, but as far as say for instance, a younger child, by taking them outside and having all these outside activities, it helps use up some of that energy, and and probably helps them be more creative. And as far as your older daughter and your 9-year-old daughter, I'm sure the experiences are just amazing, as opposed to just going back and forth to school all the time and sitting around the house playing video games or whatever it may be. Now you're out living, you're experiencing, you're learning geography, biology, chemistry, all that, and problem solving, which is a really good resource. Like, let's watch Dad figure this one out.
Yeah. And one thing about the other piece of it is just being present, right? Like, I know a lot of people talk about it being like, oh, you should be present, but that's what I was finding is we now have these supercomputers in our pockets, and this thing is dinging all day long. And again, it's not against the company, and it's not against Joel or anything. It's like we have a remote team. So there's 80, 90 folks all across the country. People are in different time zones. And so I was finding I wasn't really present, like I was always on my phone, checking email, checking stuff. And I feel a sense of responsibility for the company. But that also means that I wasn't able to focus. I didn't feel that I could focus on the family or give the appropriate amount of time. And this was a really good way of doing that. And I will say you're absolutely right with the kids, getting them out. Like, sometimes I'm like, I wish there was no cell signal. I really hope the campgrounds just turn off all the internet.
Turn that Wi-Fi off.
Oops, it's broken. Now you got to go.
Crawled up that telephone pole and snapped off that 5G thing. Whoops.
Yeah, exactly.
So, hey, tell me a little bit more about, so as you're out there and about, you're learning all these things, from the hosts, from the guests. Tell me about some of the insights you've been sharing back at corporate or in these meetings that are going to inevitably benefit, if it hasn't done so already, the company.
Yeah, that's personally, I won't take credit for a lot of the feedback is just confirming what members have been saying for a long time and confirming what Joel already knew. He puts about 15,000 miles on his RV every year. So he's our primary.
He's out there, yeah.
He's our primary, chief RVing officer. So I think what my role, I'm still involved in, talking to partners and representing the company at different shows and trade events and things like that. But one of the big things that I've noticed is with the advent of a majority of our host locations now allow extra nights, and about 1,500 or more hosts have some sort of power or water available, so you can kind of rest easy and not have to boondock all the time. What I found is that has really helped us, because again, with the 4-year-old and with all the children, we have that power anxiety. I do have an EcoFlow and it does last, but here in the mid-Atlantic, it gets up to 90 in the summer months, and it's just a little too hot to be in a wooden box. So we
to 120, yeah.
Yeah, we haven't done that yet. But it's a little warm for us. So I think the power options have been very helpful. And then the hosts, what they're saying is they're getting really savvy. They're talking to the RVers, and the RVers are saying, hey, we would love to have flat spots. We would love to have, if it's raining more, especially this spring has been a really wet spring, the hosts are actually putting in gravel, on top of the grass and other things. They're leveling the yard. Some of them are paving. Some of them are adding hookups, like full sewer hookups.
Wow.
So there's a lot of hosts now that offer all of these amenities. And we're also trying to balance. We don't want to turn into a campground. Campgrounds have all the features and amenities that we do not have. But for Harvest Hosts, it's just making it slightly easier so that you can enjoy the products and the atmosphere of the host location. So those are probably the two biggest changes probably in the last 8 months, 9 months that we've that we've seen. But again, most of the hosts are still, most of the hosts are still one night kind of dry camping of some sort.
Yeah, I got you. Tell me a little bit about the overall effect on those host locations, economically. I'm sure that's pretty dramatic as far as, talk a little bit about the expectations when someone goes to visit and then the overall effect. Yeah.
Yeah. So for our Harvest Host locations, we require that, or we strongly suggest that members kind of patronize the host location. They are offering you space on their private property to stay the night. And in exchange, we just ask for a $30 purchase. Many of our hosts have markets and shops and stores. Obviously, the wineries and breweries have food and drink, but many of them also have donations. So we have quite a few churches and sanctuaries that you can just drop a little donation in their box to thank them for the stay. Also, and in addition, if you do stay an extra night, hosts are allowed to charge for the second night, and in some cases the third night. So you don't have to, you don't have to unpack and then quickly pack up in the morning, which is another thing I learned is also very difficult to do as an RV.
Yeah, you got to be very organized and start packing the night before a little bit. Yeah.
Right. So, and then that's the expectation is that, and by far our hosts have all enjoyed our members. It's another market that they don't get. Their parking lots are all empty at night. And so utilize that, get another stream of revenue. What we've estimated through our internal surveys to host locations is that we generate about $50 million for local businesses all over the U.S. every year. And it goes all to them. We do not take a single penny from the host. In fact, we don't even know exactly how much because none of it runs through our system. All of it is kept, every single penny, by the host, because the entire point when Joel built this was to help local businesses and small businesses.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So tell me a little bit about the overall effect on your family as you travel. How does your wife feel about all this?
Yeah, we actually, this is a huge upgrade because I have dragged them out to the Shenandoah Mountains in a tent in a rainstorm. After a little while, that waterproofing on the tent goes away and it starts dripping inside the tent. And so This is a luxury, like a luxury apartment compared to that. So it's been a little upgrade. We did a trip out to Luray. We wanted to take the kids to see the caverns. And we stayed at a Jellystone. It was amazing. They wanted to stay at the campground more than actually go out and explore the Luray caverns. But
they make new friends. They could be quite engaging, right? They have all these little activities and everything. And it's really fun for the kids at some campgrounds like that.
Yeah. And I will also say another thing that we're experimenting with, and we're actually starting to use it a little bit more, is we're using the toy hauler as a mobile bathroom for my 9-year-old. So instead of trying to find, she cannot use a toilet, and those little koala, diaper stations are way too small for a 9-year-old. So we've been having to do it in the trunk of a car. We've been having to, find an empty room at church to change her on the ground. And it's been really difficult. So we end up just staying home. So I think one of the things that we've figured out is every shopping center has some back lot that is completely empty and it's level. And most store managers are perfectly fine with you parking there for a few hours. So we'll actually take the whole family out, go to eat lunch or, run some errands and stuff. And I'll take the RV and park it right in the back. And if Maddie is her name, our 9-year-old, if she gets overstimulated or she needs a diaper change, we just wheel her back to the RV, turn on the AC, turn on the heat. We have a full kitchen. We can change her diaper on the bed. It becomes a very helpful tool to kind of keep the family together, even though we're home. Oftentimes half of us go off to do something and somebody has to stay home with her. So this is one way that we've used it in a non our traditional RVing method.
Tell me a little bit about, because you just brought up a good point, and I think you mentioned it a little bit earlier. What are you using for a power source when you're in that situation to get that AC running?
Yes, the shoulder seasons we've been fine with just kind of opening the windows and putting the back down. But I do have a giant Delta Pro EcoFlow that we actually partner with EcoFlow as our power solution. But it's one of those giant batteries on wheels that we wheel out. Yeah, and then it's got a 30 amp plug right on the side, so it feels like you're almost plugged into shore power. And since we don't use it, we only use it on occasion in parking lots. It lasts the entire time. Barely takes 10% of the total charge.
Oh, wow. That's quite some battery.
Yeah. Oh, it's about 98 pounds. It is a giant battery, and it works really well for that. But, I know we do have a small 12 volt, a couple of panels on the roof that run the fridge and and the pump and all that stuff.
And the lights and stuff.
And the lights. Yeah. And it just doesn't, it's just not enough sometimes. So we use that. That's our go-to. I've also thought about kind of upgrading to lithium in the actual rig, so it can power the whole thing. And we also have another partner.
You'd have to rewire the whole thing, to be honest with you, though. Yeah, you can't just stick it on the cables and say, yeah.
No. That's and that's something that I've actually one of our other partners, and you'll hear me plugging all these partners. That's part of my job now too. Is just we've actually talked to Battleborn, and they've graciously offered to provide me with some batteries at a really steep discount just for me to try them out. And I just have not. I'm pretty handy, but I don't know much about the actual solar install. So I'm also talking to the new startup called RV Help. They're trying to RV Help. They're trying to create that marketplace, and I've talked to Heath about maybe it solves all my problems, right? We'll just get a Battleborn battery and have some technician from RV Help come install it.
Yeah, put an inverter in there for you and get that all going. Yeah, I spoke to Heath a couple of months ago. Great guy, good company. I'm liking where he's going with it for sure.
Yeah, he's trying to do the same thing we're trying to do, which is just get RVers on the road.
Yeah, and keep them there.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, I'm going to jump on and take a look at Harvest Host, because I don't know if people really realize how many locations that there are. And let's try to guesstimate. As you look at this map here, it appears to be thousands. And you mentioned that 1,500 of them already had either water or electricity. So that's.
I think most of those have both water and electricity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this looks like a lot more than 1,500 here. And just so you know, folks, it goes way up into Canada, way up into British Columbia, and it's like close to the Arctic Circle. It's up there. At any rate, there's all kinds of places. So what is the current count of Harvest Hosts and Boondocker Welcome locations?
Yeah, Harvest Hosts, we're pushing 55 to 5,600, 5,500 host locations. The Boondockers Welcome has about 3,000. So add it all together, we're close to 9,000 hosts total.
Wow, 9,000. That's amazing. And, while you're poking around here and chatting, I'm going to take a look, because my wife and I are starting to look at some places in North Carolina to possibly live, because my job has changed with Campers Inn, very similar to yours, brand ambassador. And I just want a more centralized location. And we were talking about, somewhere between Greensboro and Charlotte. And as I look just a little bit northwest of there's a boatload of wineries.
Yeah, there's a little concentration. You could.
Yeah. I mean, it's enough to get silly for sure. Yeah. No, that is just amazing. And as you can see, folks, as you dial in on their website, and you can get on this map, you don't need a membership to do so. You can see like some of the favorite places that you would like to travel, or in between locations that you'd like to travel. And you can stop at any one of these 5,500, and or if you get the Boondockers Welcome additional package, you can get up to 9,000 locations available to you across the country. That is, and a little bit of southern Canada too.
Yeah. And one thing we've noticed, and if you click on the pins, you'll be able to see a little preview of the host location.
I'll get one of these winery places in Lewiston, North Carolina, that show the cat with revolutionary spirits. Sip history.
You can see, the rig, they take over 45 feet, and some of them, just click around. You can see a lot of the little amenities here.
This one, Yadkin Valley Farm.
Yeah, and this one allows extra nights.
Wow, look at that. So even in that little promo there, it tells you a lot about the location.
Mm-hmm.
Brandy fortified wines and historic something or other. Yeah, and 45 feet. And rustic farm stay light, beef vegetarian.
This one has electric. Yeah, this one has electric hookups.
Oh, look at that. And extra nights. So, my rig all in is only about 21 feet. So it looks like I can go there. Maybe you could go there too.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing we've noticed is, as we've built out the functionality on the site, as well as obviously adding more hosts, and the hosts are getting better with their amenities, we're finding that this year has been a record-breaking year. We just summarized our first 5 months of the year, and we've had more host stay requests from our members than ever before in the company's history. We've also seen the total number of members engage with our product, meaning either requesting a stay or having completed a stay in the first 5 months of the year, break all-time records as well, meaning that our previous record was in 2023. 2024, for some reason, it wasn't as much travel. Maybe it was a little more international travel and people flying out. But this year, I think people are choosing to stay and to travel, in the United States, and that's where we're seeing this huge surge. So it's really, really interesting to see. Not only that, but we also got a record-breaking number of folks who have lapsed memberships re-up and come back. And kind of say, most of the time when someone cancels a membership, either they've sold their RV, or maybe there's some health issues or something like that. Or maybe the way of traveling just doesn't work for them. And we've had a record-breaking number. Thousands of people have now come back and said, hey, I want to reactivate my membership. So all this is pointing, at least in our small little, small company and small member base, not the entire industry, we're seeing a lot more interest in RVing, in this type of, domestic road travel.
And how many current members does Harvest Host have at this time?
Harvest Host, we have about 250,000 members with Harvest Host, but we have the Boondockers Welcome membership, and we also have the Escapees membership. So if you add them all together, and we have our British cousins in 𝒂𝒐𝒏𝒔𝒐𝒓𝒔𝒉𝒊𝒑𝒔.
Right,
So
right.
Altogether, it's over 300,000 members across all the different companies.
That's absolutely fantastic, and it shows, it's a testament that there is a need for this sort of thing, and people are really enjoying it. And it seems like it continues to evolve. It's not just like a stagnant thing. Okay, you've got your 5,000 locations. It seems like you guys keep researching and finding new locations for people to utilize. Now, if you were a potential host, who would you talk to, or how would you get a hold of Harvest Host and be able to help them out with that?
Yeah, it's really simple. On our website, we actually have at the bottom to become a host. It's a very simple form you fill out, or you reach out and someone will give you a call within a couple of hours. The largest team in our Harvest Host employee staff is actually the host team. We do not make any revenue from the hosts, right? Like directly revenue. We charge members for the membership, but we know that without hosts, it's just harvest, right? And that's kind of a joke that we say inside the company. And you can easily, if you are a company that has space and is allowed to have RVers stay overnight, and you have something to sell, just all you have to do is just fill out a very short form, and someone will give you a call.
I see that, if you go into how it works here, it's a good place to get a lot of information for the hosts as well, right? The potential host, because it kind of shows, what the expectations are, but the form is very simple. And for those of you looking to join Harvest Host, take a look at this. This is just so easy. And if you go with the bigger membership, it looks like you're going to get the Harvest Host, you're going to get Boondockers Welcome, golf courses, campground partners. I didn't even realize that was a thing. And then the Escapees RV Club membership as well. So, boy, this is a lot. $152 a year. That is just pennies. You can spend that in 2 or 3 nights at some of these campgrounds. Very easy. Actually, more like 1.5 nights in some of the high-end campgrounds. So, if you're traveling and you're going, if you have a destination, say I'm up in New England and I want to get out to Phoenix, Arizona, I got a big trip planned, why not stop at 4 or 5 places along the way and Harvest Host, and it's costing you pennies to stay there.
And you're gonna buy food and probably wine if you're like me, probably some wine or liquor, anyways,
beer or whatever. Yeah,
right, exactly. So why not spend it at a local winery where you can actually meet the owners? And one of the anecdotes that we saw in one of the Harvest Host Facebook groups recently was that a couple was traveling in Indiana and they stopped at a host location, and unfortunately his wife fell and broke her ankle. And they had to go to the ER, so they unhitched their, they had to figure out a way to unhitch, and they left their rig with their 2 dogs at the host, and the host took care of the dogs for multiple days. They helped. He was in a big 40-foot fifth wheel with a tractor trailer, a semi front.
Oh wow!
So they couldn't drive that to the ER. So the host shuttled them back and forth to the hospital, and they've been recovering enough for her to, start making the trip back home. And we hear these stories all the time. The hosts really go above and beyond because they feel that same sense of community. They feel they make friends. And another story I have is what we went to, for my travels recently. We took the RV to a farm down near Fredericksburg, Virginia, out in the middle of nowhere, not much, Wi-Fi. And it was a couple that had been very successful in their careers in DC, and they decided to, build a hobby farm. And, Jerry and Julie at 𝒂𝒗𝒂𝒊𝒍𝒂𝒃𝒍𝒆 farms, they built they have cattle, they have goats, they've got ducks, chickens, they have a fishing pond. And they process all their meat local, right on the farm. So we were able to get some delicious pork sausage and some fresh duck eggs for the morning. And it's the quintessential experience.
It's a full immersion, into that farm.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I can't imagine the kids must be just like lit up like Christmas trees, as they experience these things and getting to understand better where their food comes from.
Right. It was funny. The 4-year-old, I was like, look, that duck is the egg that you're eating right now. That duck made the egg. And so it puts all those, bedtime stories into real life. Same thing with the horses. And, it was amazing. We got to ride on their little ATV with their rescue puppies and take a tour of the farm. They have longhorn cattle, and
wow,
it was amazing. And it's who would have ever? I would have never found this place if it wasn't for us. And they're not listed anywhere else because again, we vet our members, and members they know that they're getting responsible RVers coming to their site. And they had full hookups, so we actually really enjoyed.
Wow, you could really hang out there for a little bit and settle in, because it sounds like it would take several days just to experience all the things that particular farm had to offer.
Right, and absolutely, and you are absolutely right about the little one. He was running around so much. That was the best, most longest naps and longest sleep that I've ever had with him.
That's fantastic. Bill, this is all so exciting. And I'm just wondering, would you happen to have any advice for someone who might be thinking about a similar path in life, whether it be marketing or incorporating it with this traveling brand ambassadorship?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I'm obviously very, very lucky. My wife also works fully remotely. She's in accounting and finance. And with a flexible schedule, like, again, I said with Joel, he's been extremely gracious allowing me to do this, but I think it is possible. I think it's just, to be completely honest, I took a huge pay cut to do this in order to do this. And I think for me, it was worth it. Making sure that, I can take care of the family, but also pay the bills. So I have now shifted to more of a consulting role. So helping out in different aspects of the business, still putting in, several days a week, but again, flexible schedule. And I think it's just being creative with how you view work life, right? Like work-life balance doesn't mean you don't work and doesn't mean you work all the time. And that's where I'm finding it's like, it's kind of a choose what's extremely important for you and prioritize those things. And for me at this current point, it's making sure that, I can take care of my family, make sure I can experience the things that I just haven't been able to. And then also help the company. So as you alluded to at the beginning of this conversation, this is like almost the perfect meld. Now, if I was working in more of a corporate environment, I'm not sure I'd be able to experience the outdoors and do all these things while at the same time contributing to like a giant corporation or a government contractor or something like that. So
yeah,
it's a little more
the same. And when you're happier and your spouse is happier, and when your spouse and you are happy, the kids are happy, right? And to be able to share these wonderful experiences with them is just extraordinary. And thank you so much for sharing this amazing journey and the insights and experiences with us today. We at RV Game Changer are going to be watching this. People are going to be talking about this episode. We're wishing your family all the very best as you continue to explore and grow.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bernie. This is actually my first, so it's a little rusty on the explanations, but
you were just fine. You were just fine. So comfortable. And so this wraps up another episode of RV Game Changer. If you're feeling inspired to hit the road or to embrace a new path in your career or personal life, take a page from Bill's story. Remember to follow us for more fascinating interviews. And until next time, keep the wheels rolling and the adventures unfolding here on the RV Game Changer. Have a great day, Bill. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you, Bernie. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you guys all at the next Harvest Host.
Today's episode of RV Game Changer is brought to you by RVing Today TV. If you're looking for RV Game Changer or anything to do with RVing and camping, you'll bet you'll find it on RVing Today TV. Visit rvgtoday.tv where you'll find a list of stations and networks carrying their shows along with additional stories, news, and contests. To get a hold of me, go to RV Game Changer on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Have a great day and God bless.